My girlfriend at the time and I went camping about 5 hours away from our home for her birthday/her anniversary. We made the trip the day after a big storm had passed through, so we left town early and got there in the early afternoon. The guy at the entrance to the campgrounds mentioned that there was no one else staying there that weekend, which me and my girlfriend thought was pretty cool. A little after the entrance, we drove down these long pathways to our designated area. As we got closer to it, the road narrowed, so basically, you had to back out to get out of there. We unloaded the car, got the tent set up, and decided to go walk around the woods. It was dead silent, but it was still bright out, so we just took in all the nature we could and walked a few miles away. We reached this point in the woods where there was some, weird-looking white cabins. They were very uniform, all built the exact same way. I guess they were a part of the camping grounds, but they seemed way out of the way. There was no sign of life. It felt really eerie to be there, like we shouldn't have found it. So we turned around and we just walked back. We took a breather in the tent, and then we decided to try to make a fire in the fire pit. But unfortunately, neither of us had ever been camping before. We had no idea how to start a fire. We had bought some of those self-lighting logs from Walmart and some lighter fluid, but everything else around us was soaked to the bone from the rain that had passed through the day before. After some time, we got a small fire going and we just ate some hot dogs and marshmallows and spent some time looking at the stars. But then we noticed how dark it really was out there. My girlfriend was easily spooked and just asked, "Can we just go to the tent now?" So we put the fire out and crawled into the tent. We were talking to each other, but I could tell she was still tense. Suddenly, she put her hand over my mouth and was like, "Shh, do you hear that?" Before I could respond, I heard footsteps, heavy footsteps. It sounded like a group of people walking. I whispered to her, "It's probably just animals or something." But then I also heard it. I heard mumbling, low mumbling. I couldn't make out the words, but it didn't sound like a sound an animal could make. It sounded like words, but hushed and non-elaborated. We sat in silence staring at each other in the dark for what felt like forever. The mumbling got louder, as did the footsteps, until it sounded like it was right outside our tent. We both froze. I don't think neither of us were breathing. And then, silence. We waited and waited and waited. I'm still not sure how much time passed. Eventually, my girlfriend just said, "We have to get to your car." The adrenaline was pumping, so I peeked out of the tent into the darkness and told her to stay behind me. I looked at her and gave her the okay, and we both ran to my car. I locked the doors, and she just started screaming. "What was that? We can't stay here. No one else is supposed to be here but us. What was that?" I kept looking around for any signs of life, but seemingly we were alone. I looked at her and I just said, Okay. I'm gonna grab our stuff. You stay in the car." We only had our ice chest and our tent out. I hopped out and ran. I grabbed our ice chest, tossed it into the back seat. As I turned around to go get the tent, I started hearing footsteps closing in again. In a moment of pure terror, I yanked the tent out of the ground, wrapped the tarp around it, and slung it over my shoulder like I was some panicked Santa Claus. I just ran to my car, shoved it into the trunk. I didn't say anything when I got in the car. I just put the car into reverse and I floored it out of our camping area. Then we came to a fork in the road that went in 6 different directions. I asked my girlfriend if she remembered which path we came down to get in here, and she told me she didn't know. Then I noticed from the angle we had exited from, I could see the main path back to the gate, thanks to a small sign behind an overgrown bush. As we hightailed it out of there, I noticed there was a single, small, green light out in the woods to our right, directly where our camping spot was. We drove the entire 5 hours back to our hometown, and we ended up falling asleep on my girlfriend's parents' couch at around 4 a.m. We never talked about the trip ever again, and haven't had any desire to camp since then.